Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. I write for the Chicago Reader and etc.
And my name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living, and my pronouns are he, him.
All right, so we've got movies to talk about, as always. And over on our Patreon, if you're a member and if you're not, consider joining for $5 a month because you get access to very cool bonus episodes weekly like this one, where we talked about the classic Italian film Bicycle Thieves. And we had a really great conversation about it because it was a first-time watch for two of us and a rewatch for one of us. And it was a lively discussion. So go check that out if you are a patron.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah. And speaking of patrons, we also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I also just want to say that we also have some fabulous merch. We don't always talk about it, but we have really great merch that you can check out at our website, spoilerpiece.com, and that will take you to our TeePublic store. Now, let's get to the movies that we're going to be talking about. We are going to be covering two tonight. You might be listening to this in the morning. This morning. So today, this episode, we're going to be talking about the rom-com Your Place or Mine, and we're going to be talking about the horror movie, slasher horror, Scream 6. So we're going to start with the rom-com Your Place or Mine, written and directed by Aileen Brosh McKenna, starring Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. And let me give you the synopsis from Netflix. Debbie and Peter are best friends and total opposites. Uh-oh. You
don't say.
Yeah, right? She craves routine with her son in LA. He thrives on change in New York. When they swap houses and lives for a week, they discover what they think they want might not be what they really need. I think someone's going to learn a lesson here.
You don't say.
Yeah. So to flesh that out a little bit, they've been friends for about 20 years and they met at a college party and they hooked up. But Peter said, "Hey, I'm not into a relationship. I don't want that with you or with anybody." And Debbie was like, "Okay." And then they became best friends and they FaceTime every day and they text and they call and they basically talk every single day of their lives and they share everything, or so they think. And then Debbie wants to finish her master's and she has like one exam to go. So she's doing this 1 week exam program so she can finally finish and then be an accountant. And then she's going to go out to New York and she has a babysitter who is her ex's girlfriend, played in a cameo by the great Rachel Bloom. But then Rachel Bloom is a flake and flakes out. And so then Peter comes to the rescue and is like, "I'll come out to LA and you take my house." And so that's exactly what happens. And then a whole bunch of shenanigans ensue. Like Debbie finding a manuscript in Peter's apartment and then getting it to an editor and then having his book try to be published. And then Peter helping out her son in LA and befriending Steve Zahn, who's the gardener. Anyway, a lot of fun little side things. But let's talk about what you guys thought of the movie.
Evan, why don't you take this one?
Oh, boy. You sure you want me to start?
I can start, but it's, whatever.
Now, I just want to say, I want to preface this by saying I texted Dave that he should watch this movie because it's adorable. And judging based on that, he may never take a suggestion of mine again. I don't know.
I will absolutely take suggestions from you again.
Yes.
But I'll just go ahead and go. But I should have known better, if only because this movie stars Ashton Kutcher. And I am not on the Ashton Kutcher. I love his wife. She's terrific. But
Mila Kunis? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've never, I don't dislike him, but I've never understood what his appeal is. I didn't really watch that 70s show. And on the rare occasion that I did, I was always just struck by how much I hated his character and how much I hated, what's the girlfriend, the main kid's girlfriend's name?
Oh, Laura Preppon's character?
Donna?
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone says she's great in Orange is the New Black, but
She is.
I don't know.
She is. I like her in that.
Yeah, but no,
Okay.
I'm with you, Dave. That 70s show is garbage. I never liked it either.
Yeah. So there was that. And then also, this is a movie that unfortunately tells instead of shows a lot.
Yes.
Yes,
So-
it
Yeah,
does.
that's a big.
You know,
it is a big issue.
when he's
here.
just like, I'm a big piece of shit. It's like, well, why don't we like maybe see you being a big piece of shit instead of you just, because now you've been sober however many years, and yes, you still don't, have serious relationships, but there's no indication other than your lack of commitment that you're an asshole to any of these people you're dating. You're just a flake. Which is
where you just kind of shrug, like when he gets dumped in the beginning by Becca, he's just kind of like, all right, she took the car. Now I guess I have to walk to work.
yeah.
Right?
Like it doesn't even really seem to bother him very much. He's just been dumped.
By
Yeah.
the way, another great cameo by Bella Lavelle, who's also in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Aileen Mabrosh,
Yes.
McKenna's show, and also a voice in She-Ra as Marmista. She's great.
Yeah. I was really happy to see her, although I was disappointed that her character went for the, oh, so you're friends with this, you're friends with a girl and you talk to her all the time? Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, but Zoe Chow doesn't feel that way. Zoe Chow,
Yeah,
who's
I know.
actually a character in the film, is like, oh, okay, tell me more. I want to know everything about you.
Yeah.
No, and I know, but I'm just like, she was on She-Ra. She should know about the power of friendship. I'm just saying.
I don't think she's the same character.
I also understand that the machinations of the screenplay demand that Reese Witherspoon have a companion in New York. Otherwise, it's just going to be a woman alone on screen doing things, which I'm sure Reese Witherspoon could do. But so to give her this friend who comes in out of nowhere, who is just fascinated with her life, I was like, I think I've reached the end of my suspension of disbelief. And I love a rom-com, and they're all stupid except when they're not. And I can see the only scene that actually rang true to me, and I wouldn't be surprised, Megan, if you thought this one didn't, was when they are passing each other on the two walkways at LAX.
Are you kidding me? I love that scene.
Oh, okay. And they're screaming at each other on the phone. And then he's like, I'm here. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm on the other walkway.
No, that's
and then they
brilliant.
just
I love
start
it.
screaming at each other about, and I was just like, here, we finally, this is sort of what this movie has been promising, is this, an opportunity to see them interact as two people who seem to actually care about each other. Because the other thing is maybe it's because of their distance. Maybe it's because I didn't like the way it was written, but I never really felt like they were actually best friends. I don't know. But I believed that they were best friends who were angry at each other when they were having that argument at the airport. That I believed. And I think that's more Reese Witherspoon than anything else. But he was good too in that scene for what it was.
I agree.
And I don't know. I didn't love the kid. Didn't love Steve Zahn's character. Jesse, what's his face from Williams, just has always rubbed me the wrong way. I think that's because I hated his character on Grey's Anatomy. I will admit, he is a astonishingly good-looking man, but I just don't like his performances that I've seen. So, Megan, I'm sorry to crap all over this after you recommended it to me. But here's the thing, though. I will say I didn't dislike it. There's nothing in this that makes me go, oh, just fuck this. There's nothing like that. I was just kind of like, this is sort of, I can see why this ended up on Netflix and not theaters. Maybe it was always a Netflix movie. I don't know. But it's, I kind of feel like, Netflix now has some like super big budge stuff. And I feel like before they started doing it, they had like a high tier of like, not B level, but like A-, B+ level. And I feel like this fits into that stratosphere, like, Netflix from 6 years ago. So I don't know. So don't be mad at me.
I'm not mad at anybody.
Okay.
Evan, what did you think?
I'm in Dave's camp, although I think I disliked this more than you did, Dave.
Okay.
I agree with you. It's one of its principal issues is the telling and not showing. I normally like Reese Witherspoon. I think she's fine here. I don't think Ashton Kutcher is very good. I have seen him be good. I thought he was really great in Vengeance last year. I thought that was a really great performance. In this one, I have a hard time buying him as the dorky guy who can't come up with a good nickname for her son and just keeps failing. I just don't really buy him as a dork. But then there were also moments where I could literally see him acting. And the best example I could think of is when he's on the phone and he's trying to convince her that it's going to be okay and he wants to be there to support her and he's going to come stay at her house. I literally felt like he was like one moment away from saying, "I'm acting," because it was just such a like overdone moment. So that was disappointing. I wish they had more chemistry. This movie definitely plied me with the Cars. The Cars is one of my favorite bands.
Oh, so I loved that the Cars were in this so much.
Yeah, they kept me. They bribed me with the Cars, and I very much enjoyed that aspect of the movie. And I really liked the supporting characters in this movie. I loved Tig Notaro every time she was on screen. She was very funny and just a lot of fun. And Steve Zahn's character, I don't know what he was doing in this movie. I thought he was just a strange character to have, but I liked him. I think Steve Zahn was great in his part.
He was based on a real person.
It really?
Yeah. Yeah, all the guys in this movie are based on kind of composites of people Aileen Brosh McKenna knew, like friends of hers.
That's
so yeah,
interesting.
And I love Steve Zahn too. I don't even care. He's a great supporting character for rom-coms.
Yeah,
he is. I enjoyed when I saw him on screen, and I also liked Zoe Chow. I thought she was quite fun.
I thought she was fun. I just don't know what she was doing there.
Having a blast.
Well, yeah, she seemed like she was having fun. That's true.
So I dug that. Some of the other smaller things that like got under my skin. I couldn't believe that Ashton Kutcher's character believed Steve Zahn that they were hooking up together and actually became really jealous of that situation. Like, I just thought that was a dumb thing for him to believe this guy that they're hooking up, and B, for them to actually, for it to really matter. It's like, you're both single. You're not together. You're doing stuff. Like, you're both allowed to be hooking up with other people. Like, you're going to get mad that she might have a on again, off again thing with her neighbor.
But that indicates that he cares more than what he said. And people do get jealous. Jealousy is a real emotion.
True. And that's actually one of the few moments of show rather than tell.
Exactly. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it's completely irrational, but emotions are irrational. Romance is irrational.
By the way Shiri Appleby showed up in that bar looking the way she did, missed opportunity, man. I just... Like when she walked in there, I was like, "Hello, Shiri Appleby, looking fucking awesome," you know?
But Evan, did you have more things that I think you said got under your skin?
I mean, that was one of the big things with that. And also, I feel like they could have just both been in New York. She was only going to be there for a week. Like, why didn't they all just hang out at his... I didn't think that they necessarily even needed to be separated for all that time. That's a weird quibble with the plot. But then also, I don't like that his first thing is that he's got to fix her son. He sees the son as like a fix-it project that he's got to work on.
I didn't even think about that.
He's like, oh, wait, let's make you more popular with these kids, or let's, like he's just questioning her parenting like at every turn and trying to do the literal opposite. And I feel like if you are friends, and even if you don't agree, it's kind of a shitty thing to do to undermine her parenting choices. And like, yeah, like watch Alien, or like, yeah, maybe eat a little more ice cream. Like, fine. Like, I'm on board with like, let's be a little looser. Right. But the fact that his go-to things are like, okay, let's fix you up because you're too much of a dork with no friends, and I got to see you as like a consulting project.
I agree with you. Two things on that. I don't think it's that he thinks he's a dork and so he needs to fix him. I think it's that the son is clearly not happy not having friends, and so that's why he wants to help. So I think he thinks he's helping in kind of a benevolent way, not like you're a dork and I'm a cool guy and I'm going to fix you. So, but I do agree that he should adhere more to Debbie's parenting style. You're 100% right in that. The other thing I will say is that I think, again, you guys are talking about how this movie tells rather than shows. I think it shows how both of them are fools because Debbie also violates his privacy by snooping and finding the manuscript and then submitting it to Jesse Williams, the editor. So I think it shows how they're both misguided. Not that two wrongs make a right, of course, but
right.
Yeah, but I also think it is a way of showing how, oh, maybe I have more to learn. Oh, maybe we should actually talk more than we think we do. Not just about, hey, I ate some, crackers today and I'm going out to dinner tonight. Right. Like maybe you need to have more meaningful conversations, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. But this movie is literally just a sea of situations where characters could have had a conversation and resolved a lot of these minute issues between each other.
You just described every episode of Three's Company.
I was like, that's a sitcom. That's a rom-com. Like, yes, that's I agree totally.
I don't know.
That's the formula.
I grow weary of that sometimes when a conversation, of course, there are things that people don't talk about, but when it feels like it's constantly things that could have been resolved with people just talking to each other, give me a little bit of
especially if you're talking every day,
I don't disagree. But then again, there are people who talk a lot and don't talk about the things they actually want to talk about or probably should talk about. So
that's true.
So that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't face their real emotions. They don't want to have real conversations. They want to keep it surface level. So I found that very realistic. Very frustrating. I agree with you, Evan. I think it's highly annoying and frustrating. And I'm like, why don't you just fucking talk? But so I agree with you, but I think it does ring true. Especially for Debbie, because she is somebody who has this weird narrative in her head, like, oh, I'm a mom and I'm in my 40s, so I can't do this, or I have to do that, or I have to do this, which is so limiting. But I think a lot of people, especially women, do it.
For sure.
Yeah, so I really liked seeing that. So yeah, I clearly loved this way more than you two, and I don't care. I will be out in a limb by myself. I loved this. I thought this was, there are those things that are problems in the rom-com, formula and genre, of course, but I loved it. I thought Reese Witherspoon was a delight. I'm not an Ashton Kutcher fan, but I think he fit this role because this character as Peter is such a buttoned up character that I think he really kind of comes into his own and opens up that when we finally do have that really raw, realistic confrontation at LAX, Dave, I feel like that's a really earned moment. So even though I don't think Ashton Kutcher is necessarily as good as he could or should be in the rest of the film, I felt that moment was really earned, and I really loved their chemistry together at that point. And yeah, I think you're both right. The supporting cast is excellent. I loved the supporting cast. Mm-hmm. I loved the New York locations. I loved the LA locations. I just found this really warm, really cozy. This was a delight. I couldn't stop smiling. I loved this. I love Aileen Brosh McKenna. I've been a huge fan of hers for a really long time. I love Devil Wears Prada, which I think is a really smart script. And I love Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which, again, really smart show. And I know you love it too, Evan. Yeah. But this is her directorial debut. And I was really glad to see that. And, she's been in Hollywood and especially rom-coms for so many years. It's kind of nice to see her finally direct. But yeah, I really loved this. And I really liked the dialogue. And I think I know what you guys are saying about it tells more than it shows. But I think what's interesting is, like I said, I think the telling is actually showing. It's just kind of showing more hidden underneath things. But anyway, I loved this.
In the vein of people who talk to each other all the time, but maybe don't know each other as well as they should. Oh, they did a whole bit about that on Saturday Night Live over the weekend, where Bowen Yang is, it's a digital short. He's like, I love my girlfriends, but sometimes it just gets to be too much. So that's when I call my straight white male friend. And it's just this guy who's just a meathead, who's like, hey, you want to get a beer? Totally. And it's just like them just doing, it's funny. So
it is funny.
Oh, you saw it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because my best friend is a guy and he's a straight guy. And it's funny because we talk about everything. And well, I talk about everything. And, you know, I ask a lot of personal nosy questions because I'm a very nosy, inquisitive person. And I'll be like, oh, well, did you talk about that with so-and-so? And I'll be like, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? Why not? What are you guys talking about? And like, I don't understand it, but I do think it's funny. So I think that's also another reason why I like this film so much is because, you know, I do complain sometimes that we don't always need to have men and women get together in a romantic way. Like we can have platonic friendships. And I mean, you wouldn't have a rom-com if you didn't have that. But I will say, I do like the notion of having a man and a woman be friends for so many years, especially as my best friend is a man and I've been friends with him for, you know, 10 years. And so I love that. And I also love that except for Bella Lavelle, all the other characters are kind of cool with it. You know, they're just like, oh yeah, cool. Like nobody thinks it's weird or gets out of shape about, you know, bent out of shape about it. Like, yeah.
Fair play.
I like this movie so much. I'm going to watch it again later. Not today.
You know what movie I'm going to watch soon? Because I can't believe there's a movie with this title.
What movie is that?
It's called As Good as It Gets, and it's about a woman who runs a cheese shop.
Stop it. Are you serious?
And her name is Brie.
Nice.
No, what?
Yes.
Very nice.
I said, because I was watching She's Out.
It's not a Hallmark movie, is it?
It might be. I was watching She's Out of My League last week, and because that movie just, pardon me, it cracks me up. And then I was like, whatever happened to the woman who plays Alice Eve's younger sister? So I Googled her, and she's in a movie called As Good as It Gets. And I am going to watch the fuck out of that. You better believe it.
I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah. She's done a few of those like corny, you know, Hallmark, Lifetime, whatever movies. So I haven't seen any of them, but I'm about to.
I think I'm just surprised that the two of you, knowing what I know about both of you, that some of the corny movies you've watched, and this is the movie that gets taken to task. Shaw.
You know, I think part of it is now maybe this movie's intending to be corny. I don't think it is, but
are you saying like it should be cornier or less
either cornier or more realistic? I don't know, but I think that anybody who writes or acts or directs whatever, a Hallmark, Lifetime, whatever movie, they know what they're doing, I think. I don't think anybody's going into those being like, man, we're making fucking art, you know? So
yeah. I don't think corn was the issue for me on this. You know, I like corny stuff. I like cheesy jokes.
That's true.
You like
do.
dad jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, I like plenty of corn and plenty of cheese.
You're fucking killing me.
I don't think I liked these protagonists, and I feel like it's hard to root for. Not that I like hated Reese Witherspoon's character. I just didn't like Ashton Kutcher, and I didn't think it was a good performance, and so it was very hard to root for these people, and maybe that was part of why I wasn't vibing with this movie. After we watched it, Shauna actually raised a good point and something I wish that they had leaned into more. So in the beginning, we know that they met at like a poker game, and there's this kind of like, they bring up poker a couple times, and I feel like it would have been interesting if they leaned into that more. Like if like Reese Witherspoon was like really into poker, and like there was like her poker was like somehow feeding into her like math interest and wanting to be in the like math course. Because I feel like that would have been an interesting direction to take the movie, is like make it more about her interest in poker or their relationship as it relates to meeting, playing poker. And they like teased it a little bit, but I feel like that could have been interesting. It could have taken the story a little bit more like unique direction.
The math angle makes sense.
I would have hated that. So I'm actually very glad it didn't happen, because I know what you're saying, but I love that it went the direction it did, because she's gravitating towards like real estate as like this safe, sensible, responsible choice when she really wants to be an editor and be in the world of writing. And because that's a risky choice. And so I like that. And I like that the fact that she's a single mom, she's like, no, I have to go the safe route. I can't go the risky artistic route. And so I loved that. So that's why, so for me, I can totally see why, you know, leaning into the poker would have worked better for you. But yeah, no, I'm glad it didn't do that and it stayed where it did. Because for me, it resonated far more with me, and I liked that. Also because knowing Reese Witherspoon, not that I know her personally, but knowing how she has her book club and she promotes women authors constantly, and she is a voracious reader and scoops up movie rights for books left and right. That also felt like she was bringing a part of herself to this role, which made it feel even more realistic and authentic.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that line of thinking.
Thank you. Evan, I think you guys just wanted more poker. Which
I just wanted more believability and, you know, people who acted like they knew each other. So.
You know, I do wonder if it was cast with a different person other than Ashton Kutcher, if you guys would feel differently or if you would still dislike the character.
Probably. Yeah.
I probably would have bought into it more.
Would have bought it if it was Chris Evans for fucking sure. You would.
Chris Evans. No, I was just thinking Chris Evans is coming out with that rom-com Ghosted with Ana de Armas.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that one looks, I don't know. Anyway.
I was kind of hoping that she was a ghost, but
I think I would have liked that premise more.
Me too. And like now that I know what the premise is, I'm just like, come on, you know, because isn't this The Spy Who Dumped Me, except, you know, gender reversal?
Yeah, it very much is. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I will say, Evan, now that things are percolating, now I want a poker movie with Reese Witherspoon.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool?
I think she would be good in that.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, I think she's great in everything. I love her. I think there's nothing
I generally do like her in things. Like, I think she's very talented and funny and charming. I don't know what was about this one that just wasn't as much for me. But I didn't like hate her. I just feel like it's hard. If you don't like the male lead, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Shotgun Wedding. If you don't like the male lead that's playing opposite, you know, it doesn't matter how much you like J-Lo or Reese Witherspoon. If the guy there is just not working, it's a huge. It's going to sink the movie.
Yeah, 50% of it doesn't work. You're out.
and this. Yeah, and I think you've both heard me talk about how much I dislike Billy Crystal generally, but man, the right choice for Harry in When Harry Met Sally. Just all of the actual positive things of his acting, whatever, work for that movie.
No,
City Slickers, fuck that shit. But
yikes! City Slickers is catching strays.
Yeah. Anyway, shots fired.
But I agree with you about When Harry Met Sally and Billy Crystal that I don't like him either usually, but he's right on for that with Meg Ryan. But you're right. Yeah. So, well, guys, this was my fault. So
there is no blame here.
Your fault.
Sorry that you guys didn't resonate with you, but
them's the breaks. This happens every week.
Are the breaks. Did you guys have any final thoughts?
No. I also like you know what? I am going to say this.
Oh, yes.
I don't know why this is in rom-coms, and people always have a bar that they go to that all of the characters seem to know, even if they've never been in New York before. And that's whatever that bar is. I can't remember the name of it. That's Jesse Williams.
Brownstone,
the Brownstone
or something.
I don't know if it's a real place. I don't know if it's set. I haven't lived in New York in a long time. But the way that they all just act like, yeah, this is the place to go right now. And they do that the last time I saw that was in The Hating Game. There's a bar where everybody goes and she's like, I'm going to this place. He's like, oh yeah, I know that place. It's like, why would you know that place? It's 47 blocks from your office. It's not nowhere near where you live. Come on. Whatever.
Maybe it's got a lot of good buzz. I don't know. No, I think you're right, Dave.
My last thing I want to say, and I'll be curious if you do watch this again, Megan. There's early on in the movie when Ashton Kutcher is talking to her over FaceTime, like on his laptop, the clouds behind him looked really fake for some reason. And I'm just curious if you watch it again, if you watch and closely and see if you feel like the same way. I just thought it was a weird thing. If it was CG, why you would need to CG clouds into the sky? Because I just thought these don't look real in places, and maybe it's just my TV, but I'd be curious if you notice the same thing when you watch it again.
Yeah.
I will definitely take note of that. And I like that I have an assignment. I will say one thing that I read in the press notes about this movie was that Aileen Brosh McKenna said that the split screen was very difficult the split screen cinematography and doing it, the construction of it. So maybe that's why. I don't know, but I will keep my eyes out for it.
I actually like the split screen.
I do
come
too.
to think of it, I was enjoying that in the beginning, especially the way that it seemed like they were laying in bed together, but then they weren't. They were just on the phone. I thought that was a cute way to start the movie.
I agree with you. It had a nice feel of this intimacy, and then it's like, oh, surprise! It's just the technology, which still offers a sense of intimacy. But yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about our next and final film, Scream 6. So Scream 6 is, of course, based on characters created by Kevin Williamson. It's written by James Vanderbilt and Gary Busick, directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who also directed the last Scream. And we've got returning castmates, Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Courtney Cox, of course. And let me give you the synopsis that is from the press release. So following the latest Ghostface killings, the 4 survivors leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter. In Scream 6, Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, and Jenna Ortega, Hayden Panettiere, and Courtney Cox return to their roles in the franchise, alongside some new faces. All right. That's a down and dirty, very quick synopsis. Yeah, I mean, basically, Jenna Ortega wants to go to college in New York, and her sister, Melissa Barrera, joins, and it keeps a very vigilant eye on her, and they have their core 4 friend group, and then they have some new friends and partners. And yeah, there's, of course, the 10-minute opening scene. As always, opens with a kill, opens with a blonde.
Yeah.
And yes.
And I like Samara Weaving, but I don't know. Is she a big enough name to be in the open like that?
Yeah, it's definitely different because it's not like Drew Barrymore or like...
or like everybody in Scream 4.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's the Ready or Not connection, right?
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
They did.
Do Ready or Not.
They did do Ready or Not. Yes. Yes.
I also appreciated that she was using her real accent.
Her Australian. Yes, exactly. But yeah, so in that scene, and we're digging into spoilers because this is a spoiler piece.
Oh, that's right. They're like, if you're going to talk about spoilers, please say that you're going to talk about spoilers, because like, I'm just going to say, if you can't figure out what's going on in this movie, you need to stop watching movies. But
yikes.
Shots fired.
I would not say that, but okay. You know where Dave stands on this.
Tongue firmly
Dave was
planted
like
in cheek,
he picked up, Dave was like Ghostface. He like picked up the shotgun and just, fired a couple warning shots to the audience here.
Yeah.
By the way, that scene, with the way Ghostface, we can get to that. But anyway, Megan, you were going to say something.
I was just going to flesh out the synopsis a little bit more, and then we should definitely dive in.
Sure.
Yeah, so basically, Samara Weaving is on a date with a blind date, and then she is murdered in an alley by someone in a Ghostface costume, and it's the half of a 2-part team who want to start doing Ghostface killings, but then, he's killed too. And then Ghostface is on the loose. Ghostface is killing people and leaving Ghostface masks that have DNA from the previous killers on them. So, and then... that leads to a lot of chase scenes and a lot of mystery, trying to piece together what's going on. So let's just dig in. What did you guys think? We can flesh out the plot as we go along, because I think we'll be talking a lot about, set pieces and chase scenes.
Well, I guess my first mystery is like Hayden, whatever her name is, died in Scream 4. But then in Scream 5, they said, oh, she didn't die. Retcon. So there's that.
But we don't see, to be fair, we don't see Kirby die.
That's true.
4.
That's
just
true.
Just saying.
Horror movie rules, baby. You don't see him die.
It's true.
Which this movie plays right into, which all 3 of us noticed. So, yeah. Evan, I feel like you had something to say.
I liked in the beginning when the first kill is completed, Ghostface actually takes off his mask.
That was shocking.
That was a cool touch. Oh, okay, we're meeting this Ghostface, and I thought, okay, we're seeing his face. He's not going to last long. He's probably going to get killed by someone else. But I liked that touch. Okay, Now he's, take off his costume, hide in his backpack, and kind of walk out of the alley like whistling.
No, I liked that too. I was like, oh, we're in a different city. We're playing different rules. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was like, this would be amazing if Flash from Spider-Man is fucking half of the Ghostface team. That would be great. And then he got offed, So I guess they had 2 10-minute opening sequences.
Okay, but what did you guys think about the movie?
I should just read you the review that I submitted to the Chicago Reader.
Go for it. Or at least read us what you said off mic.
It's short. Okay. It's like 300 words, so this will take no time. Also known as Scream of Diminishing Returns, Scream 6 picks up in New York with, is it Tara or Tara?
I think it's Tara.
Tara, Chad.
I think.
Tara. Okay, Tara, Chad, and Mindy attending Blackmore University, not named for Richie Blackmore, and lead Sam, and I have the actors' names in there, rooming with Sister Tara. The Core Four, as they call themselves, try to put Woodsboro behind them. Sam through therapy and prescribed medication. Tara by thinking like nothing happened. And Chad and Mindy doing who knows what because they're so underwritten.
I think you're talking too fast, but okay.
Okay. Oh, wait. Mindy, who you may recall is Randy from the original Scream's niece, is here to fill his role as person who amusingly drops exposition. Scream 6 indicates the emergence of a franchise, which means everything will be bigger and bolder, and none of the main characters is exempt from death. The main characters also are not exempt from a limp screenplay. It scatters so many breadcrumbs as to Ghostface's identity that it may as well hand each member a baguette from a bakery named after the killers. Courtney Cox provides some welcome spunk and nostalgia. Barrera is a solid lead, but Ortega seems bored. Dermot Mulroney is miscast as a cop, and Sidney Prescott is missed. Note to producers, if you were going to stiff Neve Campbell of her desired salary, you at least could have had the huevos to kill her character instead of going for low-hanging fruit David Arquette in the previous installment. Aside from one effectively tense sequence set in a New York City bodega, there's a weariness to this entry that it tries to make up for by being in love with itself. But even the extra gore, and there's a lot of extra gore, is kind of bland, though one kill makes nifty reference to Psycho 2. Ghostface, please hang up the mask.
All right.
So you know how I feel.
Know how you feel. Evan, what do you think?
It sounds like I liked it a little bit more than Dave. I liked it. I didn't love it. As to why I didn't love it, I'm still trying to work through on that, but some stuff that I liked about it. I like the change of scenery to New York City.
Yeah.
I think that adds a lot of interesting tension with regard to some of the set pieces in the movie. Dave, you mentioned the bodega scene, which is incredibly tense when Ghostface is grabbed the shotgun from the store owner that he has killed and is kind of stalking them as they're crawling. Jenna Ortega and
Melissa Barrera.
Melissa Barrera. I wanted to call her Samantha Barrera, and I was like, no, I'm mixing her head. I'm mixing the actor and the character name. When they're ducked behind shelves and creeping around and trying to escape. I thought that was incredibly tense. There's a scene where they're all kind of trapped in their apartment with the killer, and they're snaking a ladder out the window to the apartment across the way, where
love that.
That's an incredibly tense scene. They're crawling across the ladder, and there's the subway scene where it's Halloween, so everyone's in costume, and I love all the Easter eggs of the different costumes that people have on the subway, and a bunch of people are dressed as Ghostface because it's Halloween, and so you don't know which one is the real Ghostface, and then you're just sitting there, the lights keep going out on the train, and the Ghostface keeps like getting closer and I just thought that scene was incredibly tense and well done too. So I think there were just several pieces that worked really well for me. And I dug the weird shrine to Ghostface that it's like an old movie theater you find in the film that you're like, okay, the killers got all of this, Ghostface evidence / memorabilia and they've created a little Ghostface museum in this abandoned movie theater. And I just thought that was a cool environment for the kind of final showdown between everybody and the killers, because yes, this Scream, let's be honest, they never have just one. There's always multiple killers.
There's only one killer in Scream 3. Don't forget.
That's true. That's the twist in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever answered the question though, how every Ghostface gets the shit kicked out of them and just gets up as if nothing had ever happened. Does anybody ever address that in any of these movies?
They do. They address that in the sequels, that's what happens in horror movies.
I was thinking
horror movie rules.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had to shoot him in the head even in the first one, though. So, yeah.
I mean, that's my thing. I don't know why people aren't doing it zombie style and shooting people and stabbing people in the heads, but that's a whole...
Right. Or there
thing.
are so many times where they hit Ghostface over the head and knock him to the ground, and they could just finish the job by hitting him another 2 or 3 times. That happens so many times during this movie, and I think maybe that speaks to the things that I didn't love about it is that we've seen enough of these movies to know the kind of like tropes, and they comment on the tropes and they like crack jokes, but they still follow them even though they're self-aware. And so by the time you get to the killers and the killers are on their long ass monologue about why they've been killing people, I just start tuning out because I get bored. I think that's where I start to lose it toward the end when the killer's on their monologue about why they're doing all this. I'm like, yeah, I could take a little less explanation and a little more fighting here.
Yeah. So am I the only one who thought Dermot Mulroney was just bad? Like all the way through, even when he was playing a normal dude, and then afterward when it's revealed he's one of the 3 killers.
I think he's playing campy, which isn't necessarily what you want, depending. So I don't think he's bad. I think he's playing kind of a campy performance.
But everybody else more or less plays it straight. Well, unless that last scene. Yeah.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that's why I don't consider that necessarily bad, but it's not in alignment with what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, because Melissa Barrera is taking this fucking deadly seriously.
Yeah, you know? I love Melissa Barrera. I think she's a fantastic actress, and I love her. I think she's great. Yeah, she's great in these. I think she's great in The Heights. I love her. I can't wait to see her in more. She has another movie coming up next week, and I can't wait to see her in more. I love her. It's again, surprise, surprise. I liked this. Going rogue this week where I like both the movies. But here's the thing. I agree with except for I don't think Dermot Mulroney is bad. Other than that, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I love the chase sequences. I think the subway is absolutely incredible. So tense. And it is long. Like it takes its time, which is something the Scream movies don't always do. And so I love that. I love the bodega scene too. I think that is extremely tense and so well done. I love the ladder scene. Again, I was super, super tense. I love when when Ghostface is chasing Gail around her apartment.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, it's a really good use of space. And we get to really see Courtney Cox be really resourceful as she has been in all of the other Scream movies, which I really appreciated. So yeah, I think the action chase sequences are exceptional. I think they're really, really good. And there's a lot of conversation about trauma and dealing with trauma or ignoring trauma, as in the case with Tara, Jenna Ortega's character, and how she's not dealing with the trauma of what happened. And Sam, Melissa Barrera, wants her to deal with it. I will say, though, this is my nitpick of the film. I love Henry, I don't know if it's Cherney or Czerny. I always love seeing him when he pops up and he plays the therapist to Sam. When he's like, I'm going to need you to tell me the details or I can't proceed with you. I'm like, you're a bullshit therapist. And no therapist worth their salt would ever say that.
They wouldn't.
Ever.
Push someone like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that I was like really annoyed by. But then I'm also like, okay, but we're trying to get exposition. I get it. But there's a better way to do it. Anyway, but I think there's a really fascinating conversation happening here about trauma and dealing with the repercussions of trauma because the whole series is about trauma. It's just with Sidney Prescott's trauma, and now we don't have her. And I will say, I think that's where this film, in addition to the fact that now we're in New York, it feels weird to not have Sidney, even though she's not in the last one a lot. She's still a pivotal piece of it. And so to have her missing, it feels very much like Ripley being gone or Sarah Connor being gone. Like it feels weird. Having said all that, this really worked for me. I don't think this was the most clever in regards to the identity of the killers. I definitely agree with that. And I agree with both of you, especially you, Evan, because you were talking about the tropes. And if you're going to comment on it and have a meta commentary, that's awesome. But the thing is that Scream was such a revolutionary film because it was doing something so different that so many films then copied and were making meta films in that same vein. And if you're going to do that, you got to do something different. And I think this is a really entertaining, solid horror film, but it's
Yeah.
not groundbreaking or revelatory the way Scream was. And so I feel like I agree with you that I wish if you're going to do the tropes and you're going to comment on the tropes, can't you subvert them? And so that's my biggest critique of it, but I still had a blast with this. Really enjoyed it.
I have to say I disagree with you both about the subway scene.
Really?
Yeah. Well, having ridden the subway more times than I can count, I was just irritated by how much the lights kept going out, because that happens all the time on the subway. And every time it happens, you're like, God damn it. You know? So that's what I was thinking about. It's like the fucking lights went out again. Son of a bitch. You know?
It's funny that you say that, because I've ridden the subway many, many times in New York. Probably not nearly as many as you, Dave, because I only visit New York. I never have lived there like you did. But I was just like annoyed by how compact it is. And like, can't people just leave Jasmine Savoy Brown alone?
Yeah.
As Ghostface is like inching closer and closer to her. So I think that's funny. We both were annoyed, but for different reasons.
Yeah. But one of the things that I thought was fascinating, and I said that the bodega sequence is great. I mean, if you've spent any time in bodegas, they're so weird, and they're so, each one is different, but they're exactly the same because they all have a cat somewhere.
I know. And, I love a bodega cat.
There's no bodega cat in this one.
Great Instagram account, by the way.
What's that?
I follow that Instagram account too. It is a good one.
Yeah.
It is
bodega
a good one,
cat?
Yeah. I know. Thank God there's no bodega cat in this one.
Yeah. Or they could have had it like run out the door like, you know, so.
That's true.
But I thought that it's kind of interesting to me that the one time you don't really see violence on screen is when Ghostface takes the shotgun and blows the shopkeeper's head off. That actually happens. You see his legs like quiver or whatever, but that happens off screen. And I was just like, wow, a bridge too far for the Scream franchise. Although I think the horror of not showing it was more effective for Sam and Tara than, you know, the sound was enough. And also just like the tight spaces and just really, really well done. And I really wish the rest of the movie had done that. I was even disappointed in the opening with Samara Weaving, because I was just like, you fucking teach a horror movie seminar at this university and you're walking into a dark alley.
Well, Ghostface comments on that.
I know.
Yep.
And I did appreciate when Ghostface took his mask off and we saw who it was. And just like you two, I was like, oh, we're going in a different direction. And then we go in the same fucking direction, you know? So it's just, I think that's why I was so disappointed. It was just like, it was totally predictable, as you both know, and I'm not tooting my own horn here much.
No, you proved yourself because you texted us halfway through the movie.
Right. Yeah, I walked out of the theater at 8:02 and sent them a text who I thought the two killers were. And there are three killers.
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
I got 2 out of 3. So
that's impressive.
It is impressive, because I was not sure about the dorky kid.
Right.
It seemed like the kind of thing they kept accusing him of being Ghostface off enough that I thought he's not going to be Ghostface because he's just too obvious. And then
there's a subversion. There you go.
Yeah, roommate Quinn. Okay, we didn't see her die, so I should have thought that she would be one of the people. But Dermot Mulroney, to me, was the most obvious. Like, he was going to be one of the killers, because clearly a cop could get all of this evidence.
Exactly.
And could steal it from places or get it from places and make this little fucking shrine. And they seem to like try to hint, it could be Hayden Panettiere because she got fired from the FBI, and I'm like, they're not going to make her the killer. That's dumb.
Yeah.
I just never thought that was actually going to be a thing. But there were two things that, Megan, that you said that I wanted to circle back to. One was the lack of Sydney, and Dave, you mentioned that she was sorely missed, and I agree she is sorely missed in this movie. I would have liked to see her. But what really irked me that the movie did was the line where they basically explain why she's not in the movie. And it's just so frustrating to know that she's not in the movie because they refused to pay her fairly.
Right.
And to have them say a line, well, she deserved her happy ending. No, fuck you. You didn't pay her.
Exactly. She deserved to be paid.
Not pay her. Yeah, you don't get to not pay her and then use a fucking line like that. That made my blood boil.
I agree. I would have been happier if they just didn't even mention her or be like, yeah, we should contact Sydney, and then didn't, you know, like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know. I can't imagine, like, these movies make so much money. obviously, because they've made 6. I can't imagine what she was asking for that they did not want to pay her. I mean, it's just like, it's absurd.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I guess they met Courtney Cox's price. I don't know, but...
I don't know. But Evan, you said that there were a couple of things you wanted to circle back to.
Yeah, there was one other thing. We were talking about tropes earlier.
Yes.
And the movie comments on the fact that, okay, because this is, what did they call it? A sequel to a requel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we got to throw the rules out the window. Anyone could be in danger. And I like that idea. Anyone, including Courtney Cox, could be in danger. And the movie seems like that's going to be the case, that anyone could die. But then they don't do that.
No,
they injure everybody and everyone survives. Like all the core 4 characters all survive. They get badly injured, but they survive. And Courtney Cox survives. So I was really annoyed by that.
I agree. So I have conflicted feelings on it because I agree. If you're going to say we're throwing out all the rules, I guess is that a like kind of loserish subversion? Like we're saying we're going to do it, but then we're not doing it, so we're subverting our subversion, whatever. But yeah, I was irritated.
It's going to explode.
I know, right? But I was highly irritated by that. But at the same time, I was elated that Gail survived only because I'm so irritated that whenever a requel legacy sequel comes around, they kill off the older characters to make way for the younger characters. And it's like, no, older people, and I'm, older as in like older than 40, but like older people and younger people can coexist in a filmic universe. So that's a personal kind of ageist thing that I have. So that's why I was glad that Gail survived. But I completely agree with you. If you're saying we're throwing all the rules out, anybody can die, then let's make anybody die. Like, let's up the stakes here.
Let's kill at least one person you're not expecting. And it doesn't have to be Courtney Cox. I was fine with her. I wasn't like mad that she survived. I just thought if you're going to say that anyone could die, maybe surprise me because everyone manages to live. But I did enjoy the conversation in the movie where they were talking about that, about how, I think one of the examples they use is like Luke Skywalker had to die to save the franchise or whatever. And I actually was entertained by that conversation because it made a decent point about some of these legacy sequels, the way they kill people off, like you were just saying. And so that was a fun little commentary, a little like side conversation.
I agree. That was a really fascinating, kind of interesting part. Yeah, I wish it took more of its own advice.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like that's the problem, is that there's so many things that are working really well here. And then the end, it just kind of falls apart because I don't know if it had studio interference. I don't know if they kind of like chickened out and were like, no, we have to make it more upbeat. I don't know, but I wish it had been kind of more hardcore, considering the way it was leading up to the third act. I will say, just circling back to something you said, Evan, a lot of circling back. I also really love the shrine to Ghostface and all the Ghostface killers because it really reminded me kind of the ending of season 1 of Penny Dreadful, where there's a Grand Guignol kind of reveal in an old movie theater. And anyway, it just kind of had like Grand Guignol vibes that I really loved. So I also really appreciate that too.
Would it surprise either of you to know that I didn't like the shrine?
It does not surprise me at all.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
I'm just kind of amazed by how this didn't work for me, and it worked for you both, even though you recognize the same problems I do.
Yeah. I think this movie would be brilliant if it had, and I know this is kind of like hinging on the whole thing, but like, and the crux of it all, but I think if it had completely different killers, I think it would be brilliant. I really do. Because everything working up until that third act is just, I think, really sharp.
Would it be great or would it be terrible if the killer was actually just some fucking rando?
Oh.
I mean,
it'd be kind of great and awful. I think it all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. It reminds me of this quote from the Warriors that I always say with the guys like, no reason. I just like doing stuff like that. I say that all the time as an aside, but that would be amazing if the killer said that.
Yeah. And played by David Patrick Kelly. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just such a bummer. I was so bummed out. I really like Melissa Barrera a lot.
She's so good.
I mean, and she's good, and she's really good in this.
Agreed.
I was kind of touch and go with her performance in Scream. Oh, it's just called Scream.
5.
Yeah, Scream 5. But with this one, I felt like she was firing on all thrusters and all that stuff. And even the stare, the 1,000-yard stare when the ghost of Billy Loomis is talking to her. I'm like, all right, I don't love this whole like I'm maybe half evil thing.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't love that either. Also, I just think how did they make Billy Loomis look worse between movies? Like, you did this last time. You should be well practiced at this. And then anytime his reflection showed up, I'm like, he looks weird. And I know it's de-aging, and de-aging is not perfect, but like, how did they make this look worse? He looks so weird and worse in his weird reflection scenes.
Maybe it's because this was glass and the other ones were mirrors in the last movie.
Maybe. I think it would have been better if she just heard him rather than seeing him. But also, I agree. I'm really irritated. I was irritated with this in the last Scream, and I'm irritated with it in this one. Do we really need to dig into that she may or may not be unhinged and evil just because her father's a serial killer? Like, that's just a ridiculous notion. Like, I don't like that. But anyway.
I mean, it's a very real concern. So I listened to the podcast Bear Brook. This is actually quite relevant, which is about some murders in New Hampshire. But there's this guy who was a serial killer who killed people all over the country. And in the course of investigating these, bodies that were found in barrels in the middle of the woods, they figured out who the killer was, and they found his kids, and they interviewed his kids. And it was just, I'm just thinking of this now, and like, that is a really tough thing that these people are grappling with, the fact that their dad was a serial killer, and this one guy is like he's taking it so hard and just talking about all the stuff he's trying to do in his life to like prove to himself that he's not his father, he's not that guy. And it's just I'm just thinking of that now. It just felt particularly relevant.
I mean, as long as he doesn't murder anybody, he's I think he's doing okay.
No, I think it is relevant. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, Evan. I think it's a great point. The thing that bothers me is not that Melissa Barrera's character is grappling with that, because absolutely, how could you not grapple with that? People grapple with not wanting to turn into their parents all the time when just like their parents are just kind of regular,
shitty.
People, and whether they're good or shitty or somewhere in between. But my problem is the movie is leaning into an ableist trope that she's hallucinating, that she's got mental problems because of this. That's more my issue, rather than the fact that she's just grappling with, holy shit, how do I handle the fact that my father was a serial killer like that? Like, oh my God, how do I come back from that? So yeah, so that's my problem.
Yeah, they don't do it very well in the movie.
No.
They don't really approach that sensitively or smartly. It just kind of feels like a thing that's kind of tacked on there, and then also seems to like weirdly hint that even if she's not as evil, she's still got this kind of like bloodlust and enjoys the righteous killing. She enjoys killing someone who she's supposed to be killing in self-defense or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's done. I agree. I don't think it's executed very well. But Melissa Barrera is doing great. So she, I think, pulls it off as best.
Not her fault.
No, not her fault at all. She's pulling it off as best she can.
I just want to mention really quickly also about the violence in this movie. I don't know what has happened to me in my life between Scream and Scream 6. But I think you both have to agree that this movie is more violent as far like when Samara Weaving gets stabbed to death, you don't necessarily, you see like a couple of entrance wounds, but then when he does the thing where he stabs her like 10 or 12 times, I mean, and granted, you hear all the time when people are stabbed to death is like the victim was stabbed 53 times or whatever. Yes, fine. But those sound effects and just her acting her ass off, it's just horrifying. And I hated it. I'm like, when you saw, I can't remember which character it was, when you see their innards starting to come out.
Entrails? Yeah.
Tony Revolori, I think, in the scene where he gets murdered after he kills Samara. I actually did like that part. because he was describing to his friend, oh, when I was stabbing her, she ceased to be a person and became a piece of meat. And then Ghostface is stabbing him. He's like, how does this feel? You feel like a piece of meat now? I thought that was a very effective
I liked that
way
too.
to come back to that comment.
It was very vengeful. I was here for it, which then disappointed me at the end when the killers are revealed. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing about that, but the violence, like, so when his roommate, who was going to be the other new Ghostface, got dispatched and his body was like severed in a million pieces in the refrigerator, that didn't bother me because that just makes sense. You know, I don't know. But then just to see poor Annika, the way that she, not only does she get stabbed horrifically, but then she falls off the fucking ladder and like gets her face smashed in on a trash can. Yeah. I mean, just some of it just felt kind of mean-spirited, you know, in the way that even the other ones don't. I mean, as fucking violent as Scream is, it doesn't really feel mean-spirited, you know? I think part of that is because Matthew Lillard is so outrageous, you know, and ridiculous. He screams, "You totally hit me in the head with the phone, you dick," when Billy Loomis throws the phone at him. So
also coded queer.
Oh yeah?
Yep. Billy Loomis and Stu Macher are coded as queer characters. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I don't know that I've heard that theory or recognized the coding. I should watch it again.
You should. There's also a lot of articles on it. So
yeah. See,
I'm not the first person to talk about it.
I have not spent a lot of time reading articles about Scream. That's true. However, if I were to read a biography of Wes Craven, I'm sure I could dig into it a little bit. But
I only mention it because you said he's ridiculous, and then I was like, I think that's part of the kind of like camp that he's doing. That is part of his queer coding.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But Matthew Lillard is also that kind of performer. If you've seen other movies he's in,
he is.
So
that's why he's perfect for that role.
Yeah. I think that this movie also needs like Wes Craven's touch. I don't know. There's just
that's a good point because I thought about that too because I really like Ready or Not, which these two filmmakers obviously did as well, and I think it is missing Wes Craven's very smart meta touch. So
and also I am well aware of the fact and have seen several times, much to my own chagrin, not The Virgin Spring, Last House on the Left, which is so gruesome. But there's something about just how you see Wes Craven's growth as a filmmaker over his entire career to the point that he could make a movie like Scream and just make it work perfectly the way with Kevin Williamson's script in a way that I just don't think these filmmakers have that, you know? So I don't know. It's fucking stupid, but
they may not. And you know, your mileage may vary on the violence. I was happy with it, but I totally understand that it may be too much for you. Mm-hmm. Do we have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah. One final thought. Maybe the violence thing is about more realistic violence because when everybody explodes at the end of Ready or Not, I was like, this is amazing. So I don't know.
Oh, see, interesting. I guess maybe it's situational. It depends.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. All right. Well, let's do a recap. So Your Place or Mine, you can see on Netflix right now. Would you guys recommend it?
I can't. Sorry.
Well, I would, and I have enthusiastically. So I would definitely say see it.
Yeah.
And Scream 6, which is now playing in theaters. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would.
I think if you're a completionist, sure. But if you're just kind of a casual Scream person, you can skip it.
Okay. And that is fair. I think that's very generous of you, Dave, considering it didn't work for you. I would say see it because I think there are enough, even though the end doesn't quite come together for me, I think there are enough really great things about this. And you're right, a completionist, you may want to see it anyway. So we want to say a huge, huge thank you to our amazing editor, Otto Klammer. Otto, thank you so much for what you do for us week in and week out. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're all over the place. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. So go follow us, say hello. Speaking of saying hello, you can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail message, text us, let us know your thoughts on Your Place or Mine, or on Scream 6. We love hearing your questions and your comments, so please reach out. If you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. That will bring you to your preferred platform of choice, and rating really helps us out, gets the word out about the show. You can also rate us on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, which really particularly helps us out. And if you really, really like the show, and if you're not already a patron, consider joining our Patreon. This week, we did on our weekly bonus episode, we talked about bicycle thieves. We had a great conversation. And for $5 a month, you get access to that, as well as all of our back catalog of weekly bonus episodes, about 300 of them. And you also get to vote in monthly polls, which is really cool. And so if you already are a patron, thank you so much. And to all our listeners, thank you. We love all of you. My name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
My name is David Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I talk about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And if you want to follow me on the socials, I'm at Dave Sees Movies on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And my name's Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.